As weird as it is to say, the Nintendo Switch is 8 years old. What used to be the little console that could when it released back in March of 2017 has now blossomed into an absolute landmark in video game history. So much has happened because of the Switch's success, and with Nintendo Switch 2 on the horizon, what better time is there than now to take a look back at the life this little thing had? Nintendo in 2016 was not the same company as the one we know today. They were hot off the heels of their worst-selling console of all time, the Wii U. The lack of gamepad innovation and interesting games for the system made it the laughingstock of the industry for a few years there. Not even classic hits like Mario Kart and Smash Bros were able to save this system, and breakout hits like Splatoon and Super Mario Maker could have done it if they were released earlier on in the system's life cycle. By 2016, everyone was patiently awaiting the end of the Wii U and the reveal of the next big console, codenamed NX. Fans had to wait until October of 2016 just to get a glimpse of the newest thing, and to say fans were excited is an understatement. The Switch put Nintendo back on the map for millions of people, and having a game as influential as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild available the same day as the console gave Nintendo momentum when it launched on March 3rd, 2017. This is the Nintendo Switch, complete with a 6-inch screen, a terrible kickstand, and these neat little controllers dubbed Joy-Con. The Joy-Con are very versatile, able to be used connected to the system, apart from the system, or even as two separate controllers. At launch, the lineup was small, but with a game like Zelda there, it made the lack of titles worth it. Also available is 1-2 Switch, a game meant to showcase the power of the Joy-Con controllers. It was a fun distraction for an hour and then never again. Also released was Fast RMX, a good F-Zero substitute when Nintendo doesn't want to release F-Zero, and Snipper Clips, an adorable co-op puzzle solver. Added the obligatory Just Dance and Skylanders games, and this is what you had to play at launch. Having Zelda there really made things acceptable, otherwise there wasn't too much. But luckily Nintendo was coming out of the gate swinging with the Switch's first year lineup. Zelda in March, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in April, ARMS in June, Splatoon 2 in July, a new 3D Mario in the form of Super Mario Odyssey in October, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in December. All in all, if you were an early adopter, you were satisfied with the variety of first-party support Nintendo was providing the Switch with, a far cry from the Wii U days. And the sales showed that, as the Switch outsold the Wii U's total sales within the first year of the Switch being on the market. They didn't use that to rest on their laurels, however, as every single year after that was full of first-party releases. 2018 was another year full of big hitters, albeit with an asterisk at the end of that. Most of their releases in 2018 were ports of Wii U titles. Games like Bayonetta 2, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Hyrule Warriors, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker all just kind of released, and that's it. New content was added to some of these games to make them feel fresh, but at the expense of the buyers. These games that were initially released at $50 and later got reduced to $20 thanks to the Nintendo Selects program all went right back up to the standard $60 price tag. But in tandem with that, there were also brand new releases made from the ground up for Switch, like Mario Tennis Aces, Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, all culminating with the only one anyone cared about. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate released in December, being a historic entry in a series of historic entries. This felt like a true love letter to the Smash series, Nintendo, and gaming as a whole. But these absolutely were not that. Nintendo tried their hand at an online service similar to Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus, called Nintendo Switch Online. On top of online gaming, you had access to a whole library of NES games, with more and more being added as time went on. At the time, people were not happy about paying for an online service that was originally free to players, but for $20 a year, you got a decent deal. Nintendo also went on to try something new and goofy this year with another revolutionary discovery: cardboard. Nintendo Labo gave players a new way to experience a Switch game, making little kits to put into the system and use the new pieces in a minigame. 3 kits released in 2018, all being relatively fine and maybe a bit pricey. Switch owners didn't really care about the idea, however, so in 2019 when the last set got released, Labo saw its end. But while we're at it, 2019! Starting out the year with Fitness Boxing and New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe was definitely a choice. But the start of the year is never huge, so let's see what else they had to release. Yoshi's Crafted World in March, Box Boy and Box Girl in April, Cadence of Hyrule and Super Mario Maker 2 in June, the return of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and a brand new Fire Emblem in July, the introduction of the Super Nintendo games in the NSL library, and a remake of Link's Awakening in September, Ring Fit Adventure and Luigi's Mansion 3 in October, but the big one this year was in November. No, not that. Perfect. Pokemon Sword and Shield, the first mainline Pokemon game to come to a home console. And Pokemon fans hated it. Looking back, it was okay and had some of the stepping stones to some future games, but at the time it felt simply undercooked and didn't live up to expectations. 2019 was also the year the first redesign for the Switch released, introducing the Nintendo Switch Lite. This was a fully connected system, meaning the controllers cannot be taken out like the original model. The other big omission was the ability to output to a TV. Yup, it's just gone. But in exchange for that, you got a cheaper system with far better feeling buttons and a design fit best for travel. It was also around this time users started to experience unwanted inputs with the Joy-Con thumbsticks, later dubbed Joy-Con drift. This became a big deal that actually led to Nintendo getting threatened with lawsuits, so they quietly put out a repair system where if you get drift, you can send them in to get fixed for free. But who cares about all of that, because games made specifically for Switch are finally starting to pick up after all the Wii U ports. Let's see what came next! Oh. Yeah, there were many factors making 2020 not as good as anyone wanted it to be, but there were good games for sure. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX released, being a return to a spin-off thought to be long gone. Animal Crossing New Horizons was released at the perfect time, giving humanity something to do despite ongoing issues and taking the world by absolute storm. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition happened and nothing else. Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics should have been Game of the Year. A brand new Paper Mario released in July titled The Origami King. After the last few blunders in the series, fans were excited for something different, and that it certainly was. Whether it was for better or for worse is a debate I don't want to get into. But none of that mattered because Mario was turning 35 this year. How did they celebrate it? By releasing Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, of course. And this was another goofy little thing that they did because I don't know. But they're little RC cars with cameras that can be seen on your Switch, and you can drive them around your house or wherever you want. It's pretty cool, all things considered. What is not cool is the way Nintendo handled the true celebration of Mario. Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a collection of 3 upscaled 3D Mario games, was only available for a limited time. From September 2020 to March 2021, you had the chance to pick this game up. And that's really unfortunate because this is a really cool thing. Getting to see Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy in HD for the first time is something to behold. And any people new to the Switch ecosystem will never know without paying out the wazoo for a physical copy. Not to mention Super Mario Bros. 35, a multiplayer battle royale game similar to Tetris 99. This was only available digitally and was also shut down in March 2021. But if that wasn't enough complaining, Pikmin 3 Deluxe? What a weird way to celebrate Mario's anniversary. Yeah, the Pikmin series finally made its way to Nintendo Switch with yet another Wii U port, but at least this one added some more content to the game that made it truly deluxe. And wonderfully enough, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and Fitness Boxing 2 rounded out the 2020 releases. Truthfully, with everything going on in the world at that time, I think Nintendo had a pretty solid output in comparison to everyone else in the game industry. Yes, the other 2 companies put out new generation consoles, but only 5 people could actually get them, so does it really count? But 2021, on the other hand, really kicked things into gear once again. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury kicked things off, being yet another Wii U port, but this one changed the entire way the game was played with tons of quality of life improvements, and on top of that, a brand new campaign was brought in. It's a shorter experience, but one that I'm sure glad exists, which is a lot more than I can say about Bravely Default 2. New Pokemon Snap released in April, being another return of a long-forgotten spin-off. And I'm gonna say it now, this is the best looking Pokemon game you'll see on Switch. Another long-forgotten franchise made its return with Famicom Detective Club. The first 2 games were localized and released only for digital purchase. Yikes. Miitopia also released immediately after that, being a 3DS port this time. With an upgraded customization system to how you can make Miis, this was a cool game to gawk at seeing your friends on the big screen, but not much else. Nintendo published DC Superhero Girls Teen Power because, I don't know, they lost a bet? Game Builder Garage also released, feeling a lot like it was supposed to be part of Nintendo Labo. This allowed you to make your own game, which is pretty neat. And immediately after all that came a brand new Mario sports game with Mario Golf Super Rush. Yawn. Another Wii game made its way to Switch as well, with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. This was an interesting release, as there were some cool improvements, but at the same time, a lot of things had to be tweaked to not require motion controls, and made it more complicated in the long run. But the opposite of complicated is WarioWare, and Get It Together was the first home console entry in quite some time. October 8th saw the release of Metroid Dread, the first brand new 2D Metroid in almost 20 years. It became the best-selling Metroid game in series history, which is awesome to see. October also brought us Mario Party Superstars. Yes, it was just a collection of old content spruced up with HD visuals and enhancements, but that's why people love this one. This was the return to form that the Mario Party series needed. What was not a good return to form, however, was Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. This game did the bare minimum for a remake, essentially just putting the game in HD and removing content that was in the third version of the game, Pokemon Platinum. Not a lot of fans liked this remake, but the sales numbers won't show that. And finally, Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain. Great, next. 2021 was the year Nintendo released the second variation of the Switch model, dubbed Nintendo Switch OLED. It's got the same amount of power, but with a shiny new OLED screen, a better kickstand, and improved audio. Great, perfect, totally worth the extra money. But if spending extra money was your hobby of the week, Nintendo also made a new tier to Nintendo Switch Online, being the expansion pack. For an extra $30 per year, you get access to Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games, as well as downloadable content for games like Animal Crossing New Horizons and Splatoon 2. At launch, people were not thrilled about the pricing and the amount of content available for the extra costs, but people still pay for the service, so who knows. So 2022 started on an odd note. Pokemon Legends Arceus, the first of a more open style of Pokemon game. This is actually really cool. All the new mechanics introduced and the way it expands on the story of Diamond and Pearl is really interesting. I just wish the game looked better. But it didn't matter because Triangle Strategy came out. Do I have to? The big game on my mind this month was Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the first ever 3D Kirby game. It feels like the team at HAL had been working on 3D games for a while, and the Kirby gameplay fits so well with it. I can't wait for more games like this. I can wait for more games like Nintendo Switch Sports, however. The case with these sports games is that they're fine at launch, but rely on online play and the promise of free updates later to keep people playing the game. But what that really does is cause people to say, wow, there isn't much here, and just move on to the next one. But you know, it's always nice to see a series like this come back. Just like Mario Strikers Battle League, come on! Again, there is absolutely nothing here to keep people interested. It's either play a quick match or play a quick match online. And charging $60 for a lot of these experiences is what really made the burn worse. But I suppose I shouldn't fret, because 3 more games released within a month of each other. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes is first, and I don't really play a lot of RPGs, so a game based on one isn't really going to sell me. Live Alive, a remake of a Japan-only Super Nintendo RPG, pretty cool, but again, not an RPG guy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Really? 0 for 3? Kirby's Dream Buffet made its way to the system in August, another Splatoon game released in September, which I find a little weird. These online multiplayer-heavy games, I figure, would be a one game per generation type, like with Mario Kart and Smash Bros. But I suppose Splatoon is the exception to that. Another Mario plus Rabbids game released? Why? I thought this was going to be a fever dream that we'd move on from. I don't dislike the games, but having this as a series just feels a little odd. But at least they have a quicker turnaround than the Bayonetta series. Bayonetta 3 was announced back in 2017, and it took way too long to get anything for. I'm just happy the game is finally out so people can stop asking when it is coming and can move back to asking about Pikmin 4. That is really funny. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was the big holiday title this year. What happened here? The game at its core is solid, but unfortunately loads of performance issues and lack of optimization put a sour taste in players' mouths, making this the lowest rated mainline Pokemon game ever. Fire Emblem Engage kicked things off in 2023. It sure did. But in February, we got a Nintendo Direct with 3 things releasing that day from Nintendo. First off were Game Boy games coming to Nintendo Switch Online. This is really cool, seeing the base service get more support, and over time with more expansive libraries, Nintendo Switch Online has been getting better and better. But if you were an expansion pack member, you got access to Game Boy Advance games, and man, this is way cooler! Getting to play Mario Kart Super Circuit, the Minish Cap, and dozens of other GBA hits is such a neat way to treat the expansion pack and really adds to its value. But the one thing that everyone collectively lost their mind about was a complete remaster of Metroid Prime. This is absolutely gorgeous! Every single asset has been made to look as beautiful as possible, and for only $40, this was a steal. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe was an interesting release because did it really need to happen? We just had the most dramatically different Kirby game in years. Did we really need another game going back to that original form immediately after? But it came out, there was new content from it, and that's pretty cool. That is also what could be said about Octopath Traveler 2. Do you want to take a guess if I played it or not? I also didn't play Bayonetta Origins Cereza and the Lost Demon. But you know what? This one takes things in a different direction with a different art style, and I'm here for it. After a long delay due to world events, a remake of the first two Advance Wars games finally released. It sure did. For what they were, they did the job, but I think the delays really did a number on the excitement for this, which could not have been farther from the truth with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The sequel to Breath of the Wild had quite the shoes to fill, and I gotta say, they made sure this one was worth the wait. Expanding the open world to both the sky and the underworld is such a huge way to make this one stand out in comparison to Breath of the Wild. The other way to do that was to charge more for it. Yes, Tears of the Kingdom was the first Switch game to launch at $70, which had become an industry standard by that point. It hasn't been done by Nintendo since, leading many to think this was such a big game it needed the extra bump to get physical copies shipped out. But that did not apply to Pikmin 1+2, a collection of HD ports of the GameCube Pikmin games making their way to Switch ahead of Pikmin 4's launch the very next month. Now, all of the mainline Pikmin games are finally playable on Switch, which is so great! The Pikmin series was in full swing, and everyone was waiting to see how Pikmin 4 turned out. What is this? So, everybody want to Switch. I have a few seconds to spare. This was a really weird time to make a sequel to the very forgettable launch title, but really, just releasing the game at all was a choice. This one introduced the inclusion of mobile devices joining in on the fun, really trying to capitalize on the Jackbox Party Pack craze. It was $30 and not a lot of people bought it, but it happened alright, and this horseman still haunts my dreams to this day. But enough not talking about Pikmin 4. Let's talk about Pikmin 4. This is such an incredible game, filled with so much love and care each step of the way. Changing the perspective of play from a top-down style to third person was such a nice way to separate this one from the other games in the series. And if that wasn't enough, giving you a companion like Ochi was so great for traversal and movement. This was my first Pikmin game I experienced in its entirety, and I loved every moment I played of it. I found myself instinctually wanting to 100% each place I visited before moving on to the next one, just because I wanted to see what all was there. This was a game made from so much love and care for the legacy the Pikmin series has, and I'm really glad this is the game we got. Now people can stop asking when Pikmin 4 is releasing and move on to Metroid Prime 4, you have gotta be kidding me. F-Zero made a surprising comeback in a new way by becoming a battle royale. F-Zero 99 was released, taking the gameplay of the SNES F-Zero game and putting it into a system like Tetris 99 and Mario 35. It's a cool way to bring the series back without really bringing the series back. And while fans are still waiting for a brand new game, something tells me this is what they plan on doing with the series for a while. Which can't be said with Detective Pikachu Returns. Yikes, even the spin-offs aren't looking great. A sequel to Detective Pikachu was announced to be in development so early on in the Switch's life, so to see it take so long only for it to look like this is rough. Super Mario Bros. Wonder really turned up the weird factor from the 2D Mario formula and made each and every level a unique experience, and a good one at that. WarioWare Move It was also released, being treated like the true sequel to Smooth Moves on Wii. It did its job at being another WarioWare game, but absolutely nothing else. But if all this weird is a bit too much, Nintendo remade a long-awaited fan-favorite Super Nintendo game, Super Mario RPG. Oh, come on. Not much of this game was played either, but I'm always happy to see Mario RPG fans get the games they want. Oh, we'll get there. But we finally arrived in 2024, where a lot of fans thought things would slow down as we approach the end of the Switch generation. Another Code Recollection was first, localizing even more games and bringing them to Switch. Mario vs. Donkey Kong from the GBA got a remake. Why? Who knows, but it sure does exist. Princess Peach gets her own game for the first time in nearly 20 years with Princess Peach Showtime. A unique concept, all taking place on a stage in a theater, but relatively forgettable and inoffensive. Endless Ocean Luminous was forgettable
and offensive. Why is this so bad? There's no actual voice acting, it's all text-to-speech for the entire game, and it's a drag to listen to. The graphics aren't anything to sneeze about, and worst of all, it's so slow. Not what I expected from a series that has a pretty big following. Mario RPG fans are once again happy as a complete remake of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door was released. And this is amazing. Seeing this fan-favorite game in beautiful HD with a completely new coat of paint is so nice. This is a good experience, and one I hope to have again soon. This, on the other hand, can go away. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, originally released on 3DS as Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, released on Switch. No real enhancements or extra content was added, it's just here in HD. Moving on. Nintendo World Championship NES Edition is a really interesting way to bring back a handful of NES games and make them into a competitive style game. Famicom Detective Club made another comeback, this time with a completely new game, Emyo the Smiling Man. This had some very interesting marketing to begin with. I haven't played it yet, but maybe one day I'll boot it up. Just like The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, knowing there's now a game where Zelda is the playable character is just plain awesome. Zelda fans were very excited for this one, and that makes me excited in return. Now what I was excited for was Super Mario Party Jamboree. You know, I think ND Cube has finally cracked the code on how to make a Mario Party game. Throwing in new boards in tandem with old ones is a really nice touch, and all the extra modes thrown in that really didn't need to be there pull the entire thing together. This one ain't too bad. The final Mario RPG series to get some love was Mario & Luigi with a brand new entry. Mario & Luigi Brothership has gotten hit or miss reception from critics and fans. Were 3 Mario RPGs in the span of a year too much? Was this one just not up to snuff with the series' past entries? Who knows, it sure wasn't me. Fitness Boxing got a 3rd entry to end 2024, which is bizarre to me. And finally, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I've already talked about my thoughts on this game, but it does exactly what it sets out to do, and nothing more. It's the Donkey Kong Country Returns game from the Wii with the extra 3DS content added, all in HD. Hooray.
And that has been the last 8 years of Nintendo releases, which feels really weird. To think the same company that has done all of this was also responsible for the Wii U not that long ago shows how things really can change. And the Switch still isn't done getting first-party games, with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the horizon and other games like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon Legends ZA arriving later this year. We didn't get new entries in every single Nintendo IP, as Star Fox never got a game and F-Zero got the Battle Royale treatment, but all in all, I think it's safe to say this thing has had a very fulfilling life. I've enjoyed every second I've played a Switch game, and I'm excited to have all new experiences with Nintendo Switch 2. But of course, we want to know, what has been your favorite memory with the Nintendo Switch? Do you have a favorite game from this generation? Head on over to the comments section and let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all things Oops All Games and Fox, Illinois.